Boom. We are on. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Brad.
Brad, yeah.
Last name?
Gilbertson.
Gilbertson.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this one. I fucking won't be watching your documentary for a while because I thrashed myself out of it. But fuck, it's so good.
Thank you so much.
It is so good. For anyone who doesn't know, do you want to just tell us the premise of? So the name of the documentary is "I'm Still Standing."
Still standing.
Still standing.
Yep.
And I'll let you take the floor because you can probably explain it a lot better than me.
Well, in a nutshell, Still Standing is basically the people behind the golden era of pinball and arcade in Australia. The people that are, well, I guess it's from the history, but really at its heart, it's about the people involved in keeping it alive today. And although it is a pinball and arcade film, it's definitely like a people film. It's about people.
What I found with it was if you're from South Australia, I think especially it'll hit a bit different to anyone else that sees it.
Absolutely.
Because it's so nostalgia filled.
Yep.
Like when as soon as it came on with like Magic Mountain and shit, and I was like, oh my god, you just forget about it.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is a part of the documentary as well. Like you just forget about these things until it's too late, and then they're gone forever.
That's right.
And it just brings back it brought back so many memories. Like fuck, I remember those slides.
Yep.
And the stupid little bumper boats and shit like that. Like it's crazy, but you forget about it.
It brings it back super quick, hey? Like, yeah. And when I did the film, it wasn't until after it was released that I seen sort of like, you know, people just online commenting, like tagging mates and that, talking about how, yeah, it's good, but it's very based in SA. And because I travelled around filming it, I didn't really realise objectively that it is actually pretty South Australian central.
It's almost it's almost like a South Australian history lesson.
Yeah,
a little bit. But that's cool because South Australia is a fucking cool place.
Yeah, we just had some good shit here back then.
Yeah.
Like that's just where it was. Downtown when it opened, which is mentioned in the film, that thing was the biggest of its kind in the world, not just in Australia, in the whole entire world. And it wasn't sort of outdone until like Fun Spot in the late 80s in the US, which is now considered the Mecca. Or to a degree, maybe Galloping Ghost nowadays, but to put that in Adelaide is kind of like, it's weird.
Yeah, Adelaide's weird because it has like, people think there's nothing here and like it's quiet, but Adelaide's on a surge right now. Even like with food, we got nice restaurants now.
Yeah,
house prices are ridiculous.
Yeah,
like Adelaide's it's always been like a quiet achiever.
Yeah, but when he put that there, Hindley Street was fucking
rough.
Yeah, you didn't want to be.
So that makes sense because I didn't know about Downtown until I seen your doco, and they have a nightclub in Hindley Street now called Downtown.
Yeah,
and I don't know if it's the same site and they've just repurposed the name.
I don't think it is because there was actually two downtowns. The first downtown that Frank set up was so big it only lasted like 2 or 3 years, and it was just too big. So they downsized to a smaller one. So I think the original downtown, the Big Boy, that's now a hotel.
Yeah, no shit.
And the bar there, the front bar, is called Sebastian's Bar or Sebastian's Lounge.
That's sick.
Which is named after him.
No shit.
Which is where we wanted to film Frank for the doco.
But Frank is the
founder of Downtown.
Founder of Downtown and Magic Mountain.
Yeah. And they wouldn't let us. We're like, we're going to interview Frank Sebastian here, the dude who the bar's named after. And they're like, yeah, no, we can't have a camera crew coming in and filming in Sebastian's bar.
Was this your biggest project?
100%, yeah. Yeah, it's my first feature-length film.
It looks like it is a proper docu. It's weird to talk to someone that's made one of those, like, because I'm a massive documentary fan.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see, like, and talk to someone that's done like it's a fucking real documentary. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's weird. It's weird to say. It's weird to say because to you, it's like you've worked at it, and you're probably almost sick of watching it and living it.
I've definitely, you got to watch it a lot of times when you make it, but it's a culmination of 12 years of video production.
Did you do the filming, the editing, everything?
Everything.
Fuck.
Everything.
Bro.
Yeah, it was a lot. I did the poster art, I did the mixing and mastering of the audio, did the editing, did all the cinematography.
You'd have to be so fucking proud of that.
Yeah, it was just kind of at the point where I was like, I kind of just had to out of necessity. Like I didn't have budget to bring people on, but also the nature of the film, and I think if once you've watched it, you'll see like it was so personal. Like it was such a personal experience with everyone in the film. Well, not everyone, but most of the people in the film, like I ended up developing like
friendships,
I would say lifelong friendships with. And I think because, you know, I would conduct the interviews, I'd set up the cameras, I had people with me occasionally, like Tristan helped me quite a few times. Michael from the Coffee Factory, he travelled with me and just helped with like...
Shout out to Coffee Factory.
Yeah, fuck oath. He came with me on 2 or 3 trips. It's probably more than that actually, 3 or 4 trips, and just got shot B-roll for me. So I did have a couple of people on cameras, but as far as like the structural part of it went, yeah, it was...
I have so much more respect for people that do shit now, because this podcast has like fucking no editing. And when I first started it, one episode, because I had to manually switch cameras and all that, and I'd have to put it through Adobe, and not knowing computers, I was like, 1 episode a week was like killing me, like 2 hours, and I was having nervous breakdowns.
Yeah.
My missus was like, you're a fucking child, because I'd be in the computer room like screaming, because I'd be like, this just doesn't... Because computers and video and audio, for anyone that doesn't know, should love each other, but they fucking hate each other.
No, and there's rules, and there's like, you know, there's levels and rules and bit rates, and there's things that you need to adhere to.
But like for a feature fucking length film, like when you were done, what was the feeling like when you were just like, it's done?
Dude, I fucking cried.
Yeah?
Of just... When I say I cried, like I fucking welled up and just had this feeling of like...
It's done.
Oh my God, because it took a little over 3 years.
Were you in the space at one point where you were like, okay, this is it for me with video?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's affected what I've done since.
Is that your background, film, or is it editing?
Yeah, both. So in 2010, I bought my first camera with the intention of making a documentary film, which is fucking ridiculous now that I know what I needed to know to actually do it. But yeah, I started off making ads for Channel 9 and Channel 7, small budget ads, local businesses. We did some stuff with MV2.
Quick, before I cut you off, that spun me out so much when I saw Eric on there. I sent him a video and I was like, dude, he just does side quests all the time and he doesn't tell anyone.
Dude, no one's really even asked why is this dude in the film with skateboards in the background? He doesn't have an arcade. He's just like... He's like,
just Eric.
He represents the fans, yeah, like...
He's a good one to get on though. He's well spoken and he's a fucking very attractive man.
He is. He was on there because the film was very different when I first started. But yeah, so I decided, I think it was like 2019-ish, that I was like, all right, I've been doing this long enough. I wanted to make films. I didn't want to make ads when I got my first camera. I wanted to make narratives and stuff like that. But obviously you get caught up learning, and then when you get half decent, you get, I'm going to do this ad for me, I'm going to do this. And before you know
to make money.
Yeah, before you know it, that's all you've been doing. So I'm like, all right, I've learned enough now. I'm going to set out and make a documentary. And I started it, and pretty quickly I was like, shit, man, I don't have the right cameras. I don't have the right lighting. I don't have the right computer. I had to buy new computers. I had to re-kit out everything. So I cleared out all my gear, bought cinema cameras, bought a Mac Studio, bought proper studio sound monitors, a color calibrated screen, fucking whiteboards everywhere.
For anyone that doesn't know, that's also a massive outlay.
It was.
It's a big outlay.
Yeah. The budget for the film was about $130,000.
For Still Standing.
Yeah.
That's still pretty low.
It is low for an independent film.
But the quality of it, like, you wouldn't tell, but that's fucking... It sounds like a massive budget, but when you're catching flights places and...
Yeah, it goes very quick. I went over and... but the good thing is, once it was finished, I sold, like, 4 cameras or something. Like, I didn't need all that gear. So I've offloaded a lot of it again, and luckily, it sells. Lenses and cinema cameras sell pretty quickly for what you buy them for.
Photography and videography seem like during COVID as well, a lot of people just started trying to be videographers.
Yeah.
Does that piss you off?
Yeah. No, not at all. That's probably why I sold the gear so quickly.
There's so many like media, like social media, like marketers and all that.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's a huge business, I guess.
I think for me, that's a little bit why I was like, all right, I feel like I've done enough of doing that sort of ad content and being a videographer. And I wanted to move into Tristan and I made a short film called Free a couple of years ago. Tristan's here off camera, obviously, which is why I keep referring to him. But yeah, Tristan was an executive producer on a short film called Free. And it was the first time I entered into film festivals as a cinematographer and a director. And it won 4 or 5 awards, film festivals internationally. And that's what gave me the confidence to be like, I'm going to go for a feature length. Yeah.
There was South Australia has like some pretty cool film, like in general, and talent. There was recently a film done here. This girl I know worked on it, and it was a horror film. I can't remember what it's called, but it's massive. I'm pretty sure it was by the makers of that movie Hereditary. Are you familiar with horror movies?
A little bit, yeah.
It's I forgot the name, but it's like a really renowned group of production company, and they filmed in Adelaide, a massive Adelaide-based team, and it's a huge horror movie. It's out now. Yeah,
we do some big stuff here. For sure. I don't know anyone. I have no network in the film industry. That's probably another reason I did it on my own, because when you're just a freelancer, you kind of like, you get your clients and you want to just keep them in your little pocket, and people you know, like, oh, who you work with, who do you know, how did you get that job, like, and kind of you stay in your lane a little bit. Unless you go to uni doing film and stuff like that, I think a lot of those guys come out of uni and they've got those natural networks. So I don't actually know anyone at all.
You didn't go to university or anything?
No, not at all. I got into this just because passion. Yeah, I wanted to do it as a musician. A company called Kojo filmed one of our film clips. They're probably Adelaide's biggest film production company as far as commercial films and that go. Commercial video, they do I think they do a lot of sports broadcasting now. But they shot our clip. They had the big like dolly tracks out, with a camera on the dude sitting on the train track thing. And I was like, wow, this is cool. This would be a cool thing to do after music. And that's kind of what I springboarded into then. And it's sort of the same. Like it's a storytelling, you know what I mean? Singing and being a singer and a songwriter, you're telling stories and you're crafting a narrative, and film just is the ultimate expression of that,
Are you a massive like doco head? Do you love docos?
Yeah. So when I got in touch with, because I did all the distribution for Still Standing as well, when I got in touch with Doc Play, which is ran by Madman Entertainment, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, distributors in Australia. I honestly didn't expect to hear back anything, because they've got some of the best docos in the world, and it's hand curated. It's like picked by, you can't just go through a distributor. It's got to be submitted directly to them case by case. And they got back in touch. They basically say, if you haven't heard anything in 2 weeks, don't get in touch. It's probably not been picked up. But it took me about 4 weeks, and I just got an email from one of them saying, hey, we'd love to onboard Still Standing. And I was like, holy shit. So as a fan of documentaries, I was like, Amazon Prime's the bigger platform, and people know that. Well,
yeah, quickly while we got that, what platforms is it available on at this current stage?
So it's out worldwide on Amazon Prime. It's out.
Huge.
Which was awesome. You want one good worldwide platform. So it's on worldwide, it's Amazon Prime and Tubi, which is a free platform, and it's what they call like an AVOD service, where you get to watch it for free, but you got to watch ads every.
Yeah, that's how I watched it on Tubi. Yeah. So for all you tight asses out there, that's a good one.
That's the best earner for me.
It really?
Amazon pay nothing, nearly nothing. It's something obscene, like it's less than 10 cents per hour of watching.
Really?
Yeah, it's brutal.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The film.
No shit.
I'm about 5-10 years too late to the indie film industry. I don't think. I mean, it'd be lovely if the film recouped, but shit, it wasn't about that. But and it's out on and Doc Play. So Doc Play is the one that I'm stoked on, but not everyone knows Doc Play. You got to be a doco head to know Doc Play.
Oh, is that like a documentary streaming service?
Yeah, it's just documentaries, and that one is just Australia, New Zealand, and UK.
That's sick.
So that's the one, as a filmmaker, I'm stoked about, but I'm stoked that it's on Amazon and Tubi for ease of access, so people can see it easily.
Do you have like a favourite documentary, or a documentary that really resonates with you?
Yeah, shit, man, I got many. But, we've talked before about King of Kong.
King of Kong. See, it's a bit weird now because Billy Mitchell's a fucking maniac. It turned out that he's like, for people who don't know, Billy Mitchell's he was like the man back in the day at Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And I think within the last 5 years, it's all crumbled for him because he got done cheating. And he's sued 200 people in the process.
Do you know what? That makes me love him more because he was such a villain.
He's
just like, fuck, I'm leaning into it.
He sued what was the midget from Game of Thrones? Peter Dinklage
For portraying him in a film.
Yeah, because he portrayed him in Game Over, that movie with Adam Sandler. Like they portrayed him, so he sued he fucking sued the makers of the movie.
He's just shooting off lawsuits.
Yeah, have you seen Free Solo?
Is that a climbing one?
With Alex Honnold? Yeah.
Maybe.
That has to be one of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen.
Yeah, right. I'll check it out.
I don't know how they filmed it. Like, it just baffles me. He's climbing like one of the tallest mountain peaks in the world.
Yeah.
With no ropes.
And this is the thing I think you easily take for granted when you're watching a doco. You're like, oh yeah, the camera's just there.
I'm always thinking, how are they filming this?
Yeah.
Like, whenever I used to watch Man vs. Wild with Bear Grylls,
yeah,
half of it's like staged. But it's still, it's more impressive that the cameraman has to do it with one arm.
Yeah.
Because he's holding
just getting the equipment there.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. I realised that when we were shooting. Because the thing is, when you're trying to do good cinematography, you've got the ideal way of doing it. You know, you want to have it rigged up, you want to have this, you want to have your matte box on, you want to have it on a gimbal if possible, you want to have the light perfect, you want to be hitting all those markers that make the camera work its best. And then you get to the reality, and you're like, fuck, man, I can't do half of what I thought I was going to be able to do here. And then you really are just kind of winging it. So when you watch a documentary that's just out in the elements and out fucking hoping that things just aren't actually dangerous, like half the time, how do you even get around that terrain without holding a camera and keeping focus?
In that Free Solo documentary, they also had the added factor of they're probably filming someone that is most likely going to die.
Yeah.
Because he's climbing like 2-3 kilometers vertically, hanging onto bits of rock that are like almost, they're thinner than a piece of paper, and he's doing it with no ropes.
Oh my God.
So if the cameraman's above him with ropes and he hits off a little rock that wasn't perfect, like on there, it's going to knock him in the head and he's going to fall. He's going to die. So it's like just this added pressure. It's such a fucking phenomenal doco.
That's high stakes filmmaking, eh?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they even just set up but by the end of it, they were like, we can't do this. So they just set up cameras so they wouldn't disturb him, because he's also got to be in like such a zone.
Yeah.
He can't be like looking up at a cameraman. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, yeah, no, I check it out. I don't think I've seen that. Like, I think in preparation for Still Standing, I watched a lot of films that were similar, because you don't want to tread on any toes.
It did give me like not King of Kong vibes, but it looked like almost inspired a little bit.
100% was. It's King of Kong, indie game, the movie. I don't know. That's a pretty unknown. It was that inspired me on that. It's a game. It's a film about video games and the video game sort of indie video game industry, but it's massively like about people, and about people overcoming just being unprepared for what they're trying to do, being depressed and anxious about just trying to make ends meet. But in the process, it captures some really pivotal things happening in the indie, when indie games first started hitting in like 2010, when Xbox Live first became a thing. So that, you know, I think the King of Kong is great because you're like, let's lean into the quirkiness if you come across it. And then Indie Game the movie was like, man, this has got a lot of heart, and it actually has a few moments where, only handful of moments where you get choked up and you're like, man, like you're just rooting for the people in the film.
There's some bits of your fucking documentary that'll get you, like if you're prone to a good fucking little tear or like a sook, if you're a bit of a sook, it will get you in some parts.
Yeah.
That bloke with the the bloke, I'm not familiar with his name. He had a goatee, and he was the one who had the unopened arcade game.
Jeff Grummel, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, that bloke like really loves, like he genuinely loves his arcade machines.
Yeah.
Like it's beyond a passion for him.
He is, honestly, man, he is a special bloke. Like
he seemed fucking lovely.
He took a long time to commit to going on Still Standing. Because I had to get to know him, and we spoke a fair bit. The thing is with Jeff, like I would go around, I've been in production for like 18 months, and I would go around to arcades and do interviews and stuff like that. And I'd always just kind of drop that I wanted to, because you know, people would be like, who else is in the film? Who else are you including? And I was like, well, I really want to get one private collector, someone that's got enough equipment, enough games and pennies to open an arcade, but just never has. It's a
He'd have one of the biggest collections like in the world.
dude. Yeah, I think he's up around 300 to 400 games. Because what's in the film is not all that he's got. He's got a couple of other storage containers, but so I started to realize that people would be like, "Oh yeah, there's a bloke," but no one would say his name, and this would happen throughout several
The
locations.
fucking Voldemort of arcade games.
He was so private with it. He was because it's just for him. You know what I mean? It's not a showy thing. It's not to. It's just a thing that he like kind of. He just has it for him. It's part of what makes him whole, I guess. And finally, someone dropped his name, and they're like, "Are you talking about Jeff?" And I'm like, "Jeff." So I got a fucking first name. So I ended up figuring out like it was Nathan from Pinballers who's in the film. He's like, "Dude, I've bought a couple of pennies from him. I've got his number. I could text him." So we finally got onto him, and then Jeff and I text back and forth for probably 6 months, and then he finally was like, "Let's have a chat on the phone." And him and I just chatted on the phone for like an hour. Not even about the film, just about life and just about... And it was... That conversation was emotional. And like, when he agreed to go on the film, like I was so stoked, and I'd heard about this collection, but nothing prepared me for when I actually went out there.
That shed's fucking huge, and it was packed.
When I pulled up, you can't... The fucking shed, from the outside, it's
huge.
It's so big.
It's bigger than my fucking... It's twice the size of my actual house.
Yeah, dude, it's like fucking 2 or 3 Olympic pools, man. Like, it's fucking massive. And when I first walked in there, I was just like, holy hell.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of these things kind of happen, like, way into production. Like, Frank Sebastian getting on board, that was late in production. Jeff Grummel getting on board.
Do you have to kind of obviously change the direction of the doco as you're finding people, and like you kind of just have to weave, like you said, originally the doco was made different. That's why Eric's in it.
Yeah, the documentary was originally about just finding one Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet that used to be down at AMF and Christie's.
I swear to God, there is a Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet. I'm pretty sure it's Mortal Kombat 2 in Christie's Beach IT. Have you seen it?
No, is there?
Yeah, I'm fairly sure it looks fucking old, and I was like,
"Oh yeah, no, I have heard of that." And I called him up about it. It's like a MAME cabinet. It's not an original.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah, because I heard that, and so I called him up.
I was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, "Oh, I think I found it."
I was calling up people for like 12 months, taking serial numbers.
You can't find it?
No. Well, the thing is, I wanted to make a film that was just because I didn't.
That's also a sick premise for a film.
I went down that road for like 8 months. Because I went to the bowling alley with my dad. I hadn't been there in like 25 years. And as soon as I got there, I was like, fuck, man, this is giving me crazy Mortal Kombat 2 nostalgia because the smell and the pins and stuff like that. And that's how I decided on my topic, because I just said we'd had a few beers and we were bowling. We'd go there, you know, like we'd go bowling as a bit of a thing that we do together, like play golf or go bowling, have some beers. And I was like, I wonder where it is. Like someone came in here one day, wheeled it out into a truck, and I went there the next day and it was fucking gone and never to be seen again. This fucking machine was like a place of worship for me and a couple of mates. Like it was, and I couldn't believe when it was gone. And I was like, that could be a cool story. Like, I wonder where it is. I wonder if it exists still now in some way, shape or form, whether it's been converted into another game or not. But that's what I originally got on. So that's why Eric's in the film, because I wanted some commentary of someone else that went to... Because I wasn't sure if I was going to narrate the film at first. For most of the time, I wasn't going to narrate the film, but then it kind of became a necessity.
that was a good call to narrate it. It gave it a real like nice feel to it.
I wanted it to feel. I think because it didn't have a lot of direction at first, like that helped me shape the narrative a little more. But I also by the end of it, it felt like it was such a journey, and I kind of want the viewer to feel like they've come on this journey.
Yeah, you know, it does. It makes it feel more grand when someone's narrating.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that, because I fucking tossed up and you know, what do you call it? Tossed up back and forth between doing a narration or not doing a narration. And I had 15-minute intros and stuff where there was no narration. I was like, fuck, man, I'm really having trouble transitioning from one scene to the other and getting it all to thread together.
It would be a lot harder to edit a documentary that isn't narrated as well, because you need the scenes to tell the whole story.
You kind of need it to be the whole cast retelling an event that took place, so that it does just stitch together. But what I ended up was with about 9 terabytes of multicam interviews over 3 years.
Fuck.
Where I just all those interviews on average were about an hour 45, all the questions were kind of themed the same, and they were all kind of in the same order. So they would all be kind of independently talking about similar things, and then it was just about finding those.
So that's the trick of the trade, because when you film a good doco, it doesn't seem like you just sat down with them for an hour and a half. It seems like you've been there for like years. Like, do you know what I mean? It makes it feel like you've been there for ages, even though the interaction itself was only for an hour and 45 minutes. It feels like you've been there for fucking a year.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's good.
Yeah, you got to make them. Really got to try to establish that rapport before you start filming, because you want them to feel comfortable on camera, and you want them to just be natural and just be in a good flow.
Yeah. And so I'm going to make that into a clip. So if anyone knows where the Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet from, is it Bowland?
From AMF Bowling.
AMF Bowling in Christie's Beach went, hit us up.
It disappeared one day in 95, 96, and
he will pay top fucking dollar.
Hey, if I can own that cab again one day.
What's the price? What's the willing price?
Do you know what? Even if it wasn't that one, now they're fucking so expensive. Like, those things.
How much is a? Actually, I was looking at a buck hunter for in here.
Yeah.
For when it's fully done up, I really wanted a buck hunter, and I was like, $6,000, $4,000. I was like, what the fuck?
They're gone crazy.
It's crazy.
When you hear like Jeff Grumble talking about picking stuff up for $10, $15,
gold mined.
It's unbelievable. He's got some pennies in there that like.
Pinball's a big one.
Yeah.
I remember. So my parents used to own Flaxmill Fish and Chip Shop on Flaxmill Road when I was growing up. So this would have been 25 years ago.
Yep.
And I used to always run to the bakery because the bakery used to have a Gallagher 2.
Nice.
And I used to fucking froth it. So now whenever I see a Gallagher, like on the simulators that you can buy now, I could spend hours on it.
Yeah.
It's so good, but it's just so nostalgic.
And there's something about playing on those original cabs. Like when I went up to Brisbane to film with Stephen, who owns Arcade One Up.
That looks
big one.
Insane.
Dude, and the thing is, you can't... Like, I filmed the shit out of that place, and I tried to make it as...
You probably can't do it the justice.
There's something about being in there with, like...
Is it as big as it looks?
It's bigger than it looks, and the thing is, which I didn't really get to show it enough of, is that the out of bounds area with all the cabs that are in and out of rotation is so much bigger than I was able to show. Like, the amount of spares, because they'll have like 4 or 5 go down a week, and they got to rotate out. But there's something about walking in there, and there's like the humidity of 250 machines on, the sound that just swells. And
it would sound like a fucking Vegas slot machine area. It'd be like just ding, 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 ding.
You walk off the street, sunny Brisbane afternoon, and into this fucking dark arcade, and it just feels like you are transformed into another time dimension. It's seriously...
That's one up, isn't it?
One up in Brisbane, yeah. It's the closest thing you'll get to fucking time travel. Like, the whole place, once you're in there, you could be back in the fucking 90s.
It looks really well done, though. It looks like really clean and fucking... Like, it looks like it's legit. It looks cool.
All of those machines are, like, pristine. And they're all original. They've all got CRT screens in them. He has so much attention to detail with making sure that there's no rundown old cabs in there, which is pretty uncommon for an old retro arcade.
The bloke that rebuilt that Simpsons arcade machine, I remember those Simpson arcade machines. Yeah. They're fucking so cool.
They're so good, yeah. That's a classic game, which is why, I wanted to... because there was, there's only a couple of games that we talk about, like the restoration process in the film, but I felt like that one was so significant when I was chatting to Caesar about it, who owns that cab. I had no idea, because I seen it when we were filming, and I was like, dude, this thing's mint. And he's like, man, what this thing has been through. And that's an original American cab as well, and that was his like holy grail cab. That's like me getting a Mortal Kombat, like like this was his holy grail cab. And it's just the work that Simon from Arcade Garage did on that thing is phenomenal.
It'd be almost impossible to get like a perfect condition original like arcade cabinet machine, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess one of the closest you'll probably get is the one that Jeff...
That's what I was going to say. That's great. Were you shitting it that it wouldn't work?
So, do you know what? It's funny with
All I was thinking was like, because it took so long for it to turn on. I'm like, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh my God.
And there's no, like, that's exactly how it played out. Like, I didn't stretch that out for dramatic effect. But here's the funny thing about that, though. So I filmed with Jeff Grummel over 3 days, but they were spread out over like 8 months. So the second time I was with him, and the thing is, I didn't know about this cab. So we were filming. I was already stoked to have him in the film. And then he's like, Brad, I got to show you something. And he takes me out the back, and there's this box there, and he's like, this is like a game from 1979. It's never been out of the box.
That's crazy. It was so clean too.
Do you want to open it? And I was like, dude, are you serious? You know, when things like this happen late in production, you're like, oh my God, dude. And so you do need to restructure the film because you get these big cherries pop up.
It's perfect capping off the movie too. Like, it's so perfect how it happened.
So when we filmed him opening it, I'm like, all right, let's get the 2 cameras set up, because it was just me there filming. So I got a camera on my shoulder, I got one on a tripod, I'm monitoring it, and I couldn't see it. And we got to plug it in. He's like, fuck, I don't have a converter. This thing's Canadian. I don't have a converter. I got to get a converter, and that's not an easy thing to get. So I was like, all right, shit. So when we looked at our schedules, it was like, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks, maybe longer, 2 months maybe, till I could get back there. So when he actually opened it to when we finally got to, he like wore the same clothes and that, so it looks like one continuous thing, because he couldn't actually turn it on.
Yeah.
But, and I love him for this, he goes, because I said, have you had a cheeky little turn on of it? Like, when I got back then, he goes, no way, mate. Like, I want this to be authentic, whether it works or not. And that's a long drive out there.
It's fuck, because he the scene before that, he was getting so emotional talking about his pinball machines and how much they meant to him. And then he plugs it in, and I fucking was like, I hope if there's one fucking God out there, I hope he turns on that fucking arcade machine.
So when he did that, so I'm shooting on a shoulder rig, like, so I'm sort of facing you as I am now, and the cab's here, and the camera that's on the screen is there, and I've got this monitor that's about that big, and I haven't got great eyesight. And he fucking plugs it in, and he's just staring at it, and I'm like, looking at the monitor, I'm like, what's it doing? I'm like, fuck, I guess it doesn't work. And then his eyes slowly started to change, and I'm like, is something happening? And then he's just like, it works. It works. So I didn't actually, had that suspense in real time, because I'm like, what's fucking going on?
It would have been, and when he fucking found, like, he opened it and it didn't have the key in it, I was like, fuck, it doesn't have the key.
But here's what you don't see in the film, which I've got to put out at some point. So, and this is the kind of bloke he is, and this is fucking mind blowing. So I'm still holding the camera, and I'm like, dude, have a game. Like, hit start and play. And he's like, Brad, I've been thinking about this. I want you to be the first person to play.
What a fucking sweetheart.
And I was like, dude, are you serious? Are you sure, man? He's like, no, I've thought about it. You should be the first person to play this game.
That's awesome.
So I handed him, he's there with the shoulder rig, and he's like, how do I work this? I'm like, just leave it running, it's all good. And I got to play it for the first time. It's a game from 1979. No one's ever played it. And I had a crack at it, and it was just such an incredible gesture that it really is Jeff in a nutshell. Like, that's the kind of bloke he is.
Yeah, he seems like a really nice bloke.
Yeah. And it's back in the box. It's back where it was. He only did that for the film, and I'll be forever grateful for him. He's one of the people that I keep in touch with the most, because he's just such an amazing bloke.
Mm. Yeah, he fucking seemed like he was definitely, for me, he was definitely the star of the movie.
Yeah.
It was, I really looked forward to the scenes that he was on.
And I know from talking to him, he's still getting used to the fact that he's in a documentary, because this collection of his was so private, and it was never really shown to anyone. And so he's like, if I do this, I'm going to do it once, I'm going to do it right, and I trust you, and so it was a fucking massive honor. It really was. But he's just such a special bloke. When you meet him, he's just a fascinating dude, and he's just such a kind-hearted bloke.
Yeah, he seemed like he was. And how did you meet with the long hair glasses? Danny's super critical to Still Standing, because he was the very first person that I got in touch with. He was in it when it was about finding a Mortal Kombat, and he looks like the fucking lord of arcade. He looks like he knows everything about it. He's
such a good dude. Yeah. Like, he's another one that, like, he'll be a lifelong friend. Like, his family was so welcoming, because when I first met him, by the end of the film, I had like all the gear, cinema cameras, you know, I was all set up. I was doing, you know, radio interviews, and there was a bit of press, and it was actually becoming a real thing. But when I met Danny, he was the first person that I actually called up about the film. And I had nothing more than a little GH5 camera and a fucking little lav mic and one little light, and he still was like, yeah, I'll be in it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, so he didn't care. He was just like, yeah, man,
he wanted
I
to
trust
be there.
you. Yeah, like he helped. I consulted him on almost everything that I did in the film. I'm like, do you reckon this is on point? Do you reckon this is on point? And his family was so welcoming, which is why it's heartbreaking because the way that all played, the way what happens with Danny and his business and what happens to his family in the film, like when I was out there filming, that shit was happening to him in real time. Like,
and it's, in a way, it's like, it would have been better if that didn't happen, obviously. But for the documentary, it obviously adds layers to it and stuff and more emotion. But you'd prefer it not to happen.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%, because
it's nothing sinister, by the way. If anyone's like, with nothing, it's just like it's his business had just unfortunate events after unfortunate events. So it's like he had to close his business. But so it's nothing sinister, but it was just it was pretty sad.
And the thing is, any one of those three things, because in the film he sort of is subject to like a series of just bad luck, a series of things that are just bad luck. And if any one of those things had maybe happened, he probably would have been all right. But it literally was like bang, 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 like the flood.
What was the water damage? Yeah, I was going to say, what was it? Was that from that massive storm we had? But that was recent.
It was out north, yeah. And do you remember it was like crazy hails, and it was on the rain?
Oh, it was that. The hail fucking... With the golf balls of hail.
Yeah, and it was out in it was an old fire station, and the roof was just not sealed, and the water was just running in through the walls, and it destroyed the place. The carpets.
Because it looked like a massive fucking venue. So when he said the rent in the documentary, the rent was also very high. I was like, fuck, it would be.
Well, he had storage sheds out the back, so I don't know how clearly that is obvious in the film, but you got the main big arcade. So when I first started filming there, it was a lot fuller. There was a lot going on. He did birthday parties, he did pizza night, he did pinball club. He did a lot for the community. He never made a cent out of this. And they worked there on their nights off, and he ran that place for like 17 years. Just basically like someone that has their own personal collection that wanted to share it with people. And like Jeff, he's an exceptional bloke. Like, he really has a heart of gold, and he's loved by everyone in the community. Like, he's one of those guys that I think when that happened, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He was just sharing it with people. He just was like, this is my collection. It's kind of like having a man cave, but everyone's welcome. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. He had multiple venues over the years. So when that flood hit, some of that footage of the flood is just video that he took on his phone.
Yeah, no shit.
And when he was sending this to me, I was like, oh fuck, dude, like what does this mean? Are you done? And so he pushed through, and honestly, I think maybe, I don't know, I haven't asked Danny, but maybe for the sake of knowing that we were still doing the film, like, because he probably could have pulled the pin then.
He powered on a bit for you.
He powered on, and he was like, I'm going to do this. We're going to keep going. You know, at this point, the film was called Still Standing, so he was like, let's keep in the spirit and let's keep this thing
What
standing.
a fucking top bloke. He seemed like a really nice guy.
He is such a nice guy.
He did seem like he was.
He's the kind of bloke that you got to shake his hand. He's like, no, we don't do that. And he fucking gives you a hug.
Yeah, he's saying... It's almost fucking sad that PlayStation and Xbox just fucking annihilated that industry.
Yeah.
They fucking killed it.
Yeah.
And it is coming back now though, with those like new pinball creators in Australia. They're the only Australian pinball machine manufacturers.
Yeah, so Haggis are there in the film as
Haggis. Well. Yeah, they're like, and it seems to be like pop culture seems to be coming back in.
Yeah.
But it'll never be like it was.
No, it will never be like that again. And Frank, when I interviewed Frank for the film, he was very much like, there's no way you'll ever... Because the reason I end up reaching out to Frank is because anytime you spoke to arcade owners, everyone inevitably would end up mentioning Frank Sebastian. Have you spoke to Frank Sebastian? Is Frank in the film? Because he's like the godfather of this shit. And I was like, no. But when I found out, like, put together that Frank Sebastian was the founder of Magic Mountain in Downtown, I was like, fuck, I wonder if I could get him. He was, when we did finally pin him down and did the interview with him, I think because he's moved on for years, he's sort of like close to 80, I think now.
Is he almost 80?
Yeah, I think
fucking very well kept.
He is. Yeah, he goes to the gym, keeps in shape.
Jeez,
Yeah.
he did. Oh, he would be. He would be about that age. You don't think about it though, because when you see him, he's like, he looks pretty fit. And he's very well spoken. He's still like 100% there.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. No, he's. I think when we filmed, he might be 80 now. He was definitely 78 or 79 when we filmed. But he was actually quite stunned that it was even possible to play an old arcade game. And I said, oh, well, the film's actually about people that are trying to bring it back and try to keep it alive. And that was foreign to him. He's like, they're mad. What are they doing? That should be left in the past. He was very much, that should be left in the past. It had its time and it was great, but it's over.
Yeah, right.
And so in a way he's right, but also like you say, like it is coming back round, and it's the novel. It's not like it doesn't have to be cutting edge technology. It's the novelty of going back and reliving nostalgia.
It's just people are out of ideas.
Yeah.
Like that's why it just reverts back to old culture.
Yeah,
with fashion and shit.
Yeah.
Like, and the new ideas people have are fucking horrible usually. So it's like, let's just fall back on something that's we know works.
We just loop
Yeah.
back round. And it's like it's same within the film industry. There's a lot of reboots. Well, let's just reboot this old film and that
I
old film.
fucking was talking to my missus about that. Yes, like in the film industry now, or the way I feel about it is like, that classic movie doesn't have a diverse enough cast. Let's make the lead actor a woman and release it.
Yeah.
Like re-release it. Or like something like that. And it's like, fuck, what? They're just killing it. Like what they did with Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
They tainted it.
It's not hitting any sort of intended.
No one wants to
original
watch it.
demographic,
Yeah, no
no.
one wants to watch that. I don't even remember the last time I watched a movie and I was like, fuck, that's a good movie.
Yeah, you got to watch the classics.
Maybe Tiger King. That was probably one of the greatest pieces of cinema I've ever seen.
That shit is like, to me, that's the like spiritual successor in a way of King of Kong, because how the fuck do you just land ass backwards into a cast like that?
That hit in the perfect that was just the perfect storm, because it hit at like just when COVID hits.
Yeah.
And it was Joe Exotic is the most marketable person in the fucking world.
Yeah.
It was just perfect.
It was.
But that's why I find documentaries more palatable, because there's always good documentaries.
They're just evergreen, really, aren't they? Like they can be made. I think there's documentaries that are made. You know, I think sometimes Netflix and stuff like that are pushing it a little bit with how polished it is. Like sometimes it's a bit too polished, and I think you need
Netflix documentaries all have a certain look.
Yeah, and they're starting to feel a little bit interchangeable.
Yeah, they all have a certain look. That's something I wanted to ask you actually. Is there specific cameras and stuff you have to use to be accepted on Amazon and stuff?
No, so the way that works...
Because I'm pretty sure on Netflix there is.
So the way that works is that they call it a Netflix-approved cinema camera. Mm-hmm. And all that means is that if Netflix want to subcontract your production team, you'll need to use a Netflix-approved cinema cameras, which all of my cinema cameras are Netflix-approved cinema cameras. But I could, like Doomsday Preppers, for example.
Great show.
Yeah. A mate of mine, Aaron, used to always say this when we would talk about this. He's like, you know, that doesn't mean shit, because Doomsday Preppers was filmed on like Canon 7Ds, and that shit was a big earner for Netflix. If you want to be contracted for like a Netflix original, you know how that comes up, then you got to shoot on one of those cameras. And all that is
I'm sure it would be like a lot of filmmakers' top priority to end up on Netflix, but I feel like that is one of the weaker streaming platforms at the moment.
I think especially for an indie, you've got to be a big studio or basically be commissioned for Netflix. For me, and I used to get asked that a lot, not so much now, but we will end up being on Netflix, and I'm like, absolutely not. I wouldn't want still standing on Netflix.
And they would probably, I imagine they would pay less than Amazon.
You get completely exploited,
Yeah.
and they'll probably want exclusive rights. You don't get a per play thing. You would just get a small lump sum. And
that's why a lot of comedians now, they're releasing their comedy specials on YouTube.
Yeah,
because it's better to take the risk and do it on your, like, pay for it yourself.
Yeah.
Than Netflix give you $500,000, $400,000, but you could have earned.
It won't even be anywhere near that.
And that's probably an extravagant figure.
For a film that costs $500,000, you'd be lucky if you get 30 grand.
You see the fucking budgets of these movies, and you're like, where? Like, how?
Dude, it's like, well, you look at the credits on a documentary.
Yeah, but it's waste. It's waste. Surely it's just wasteful.
It's like 200 people's full-time salaries for like 2 years.
Like an Avengers movie. They're all fucking, in my opinion, horrible.
Yeah.
Like, the Marvel universe has just gone insane.
Yeah, I don't watch any of it. Yeah.
And those movies cost like fucking $500 million to make.
Yeah.
What a waste.
It's crazy, hey?
And then you get like an indie film that's filmed in fucking a house.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant.
That's what you want. You want something like that just to pop.
Like, have you said, I don't personally like it because I'm not a massive... I don't want to think when I watch a movie too much. My missus is a massive filmy.
Yeah.
There's a movie with... It's called The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Oh, is it black and white?
Black and white.
Yeah.
And it's with... Who's the Green Goblin from fucking Spider-Man?
Yeah, Twilight and William Dafoe. Like
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
And it's shot in like 4:3, old school fucking square screen ratio.
Would have cost like a fucking... maybe $1 million to make, which is, or like, it doesn't
Probably
look,
less.
They probably paid them more than the movie cost to make because
Yeah.
they're massive actors.
Yep.
But it just baffles. I guess CGI would probably be the biggest killer.
Yeah. Because there's CGI where you don't even think there's CGI.
That's the thing. We were watching the other day. Oh, what were we watching? Me and my missus went on a massive binge where we were watching old series of movies, and the original Harry Potter. I've never seen it.
Oh yeah.
But it's most of it's practical effect.
Yeah.
And you can tell because it still holds up.
Yeah.
Because it's not bad CGI.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, these films are so much better.
They are.
Than if they were made now, they'd be ruined.
Yeah. I watched when King Kong kind of came out, the one with Jack Black in it, when it kind of
Yes.
King Kong first came back. I went to see that in the cinema. I think that came out in like 2005, 2006. And it looked good on a cinema because it's big and it's blown up and it's kind of like got that washed out cinema screen look. But if you watch that on like a modern day LED TV, fucking
Horrible.
King Kong doesn't look like he's fucking in the environment. It doesn't hold up. So those practical effects films are totally where it's at. But I remember seeing like a behind the scenes on, remember that horror film that came out a few years ago, Candyman?
Yes.
And just the streets that they're walking past, they're like, oh, here's what the building was, but we just retroed it up and made it look like this. The cop car in the background. It's all CGI.
And it's lazy. It's fucking lazy. It's so like someone will be writing with a pen and the pen CGI. It's like just fucking just it just doesn't make sense.
I guess it's more affordable than trying to train like a dog or something. Just put a CGI dog in there.
These fucking lazy producers better watch out because ChatGPT in fucking 5 years is going to take their jobs.
That's right.
Like, and then they're all fucked.
That's why I think at the core of anything, and the production doesn't matter at the end of the day. If there's a good, captivating, emotive story there, then your job is done. Like you say, it can be have a no budget short film. Doesn't even have to be a feature film that can just strike a chord, and has far more impact or importance than just another fucking Ocean's 11, 12, 13, 14, all of these.
I just feel like cinema's just dead. I think it's at the moment anyway. I think it's just, although I did watch John Wick the other day. I've never seen it.
Yeah. Which
And
one? Just the first one?
So
you did the whole lot?
So 2 weeks ago, my business like, have you seen John Wick? I'm like, no, I'm not an action fucking movie kind of guy. And then I watched the first one. I was like, I have to watch all of these tonight
because it's like bombing down a hill on a skateboard. That whole movie is just
from start to finish. And I was like, oh my god, I just had an anxiety attack for 3 hours. And then so I had to watch more. And then we went and watched the fourth, and that's phenomenal. Like what he puts his body through.
Yeah.
Surely he can't do another one.
But even though it's a slick film, like it's not lazy filmmaking. Like there's so much prep that goes into that, and it translates. Like you can,
and the story's like it's a serviceable story, but it's not a story movie.
Yeah,
you're there because you want to see him kill 600 people.
Yeah,
but
imagine what the body count is on all 4 of those films.
Mate, my favourite scene in all of them is that fight scene he did with Halle Berry in the third one with those 2 dogs.
Yes.
Oh my god! Just during that scene, I was like, "Fucking hell!"
Yeah, the choreography of that shit.
It's crazy.
And like, it's funny. It's one of those things where you're like, every single millisecond has to go exactly their way, or you just catch a stray bullet and then that's over. But in the world of cinema, it's just all so perfectly happens in their favor.
Oh, but they're just good. And then you get movies like Fast and the Furious, like the first one, great movie.
Yeah.
But then now they're going to space and like there's 10 of them. It's like, fuck, just let it go. And the Rock, as soon as the Rock goes into a movie franchise, it's fucking over.
Yeah.
It's fucking over.
He's there to try to literally lift it back out of the dirt.
It's fucking over. He does like every movie he ever did with Kevin Hart, like all 16 movies he did with Kevin Hart.
I find their presses more entertaining than the actual films itself, when they just fucking ragging on each other in the little interviews they do with the media.
It's just, yeah, and there's just like the biggest actors in the world aren't good actors anymore.
Yeah.
But any Leonardo DiCaprio movie, amazing.
Yeah. I was gonna say, fuck man, I like Leo. Surely,
any Leo movie is fucking fantastic.
Like, The Revenant?
That's the only Leonardo movie, and it's all shot in natural light.
That's what I was about to say. There's no light.
How do they do that?
Well, the thing is, they're leaning into the beauty of the environment and just waiting, diffusing what light is existing. And I think
that would be a filmmaker's like worst nightmare. That would be such a challenge.
It would be, but I think if you commit to doing it, and it's kind of I guess not a gimmick of the movie, but if it's kind of a character of the movie.
Because apparently it's like a beautiful movie. It's not like to its detriment either.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
No, it adds to it. Tell you what, man, you got to see it, because there's a bear attacker scene.
That's what everyone says, and apparently it's very realistic.
It's fucking hard to watch the first time. You're just like, fuck, man, because it's not overly.
Yeah, apparently it's very like grounded,
just real. It's just like what it would actually be like, and you're like, fuck, man, that would be grim.
I have to watch it actually.
It's so good. It's actually on Tubi.
Is it?
Yeah, because when my film got picked,
tight asses out there.
Yeah, when Still Standing got picked up on Tubi, I was like, what the fuck is Tubi?
I don't think you'd want to watch a movie like that on Tubi with an ad. Like, he's just about to see the bear, and he'd just see the bear, and then it's cut to ad.
Yeah, no, I think it is actually on Amazon, but it's a fucking awesome film. That's Leo's not like Champagne Leo in that film, so to speak. Like he
has to be probably my favourite actor of all time. I don't think I've ever seen a movie. I just watched Catch Me If You Can for the first time.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, he's just got, like, I think in Django, he's amazing.
I've seen Django for the first time last year.
Dude, I need to watch that shit annually because it's just so good. He is just so good in that movie.
Jamie Foxx is fucking brilliant.
Yeah. That whole cast is amazing.
Jamie Foxx is in Django, isn't he? Yeah, he's
the
main actor.
He is Django, yeah. What was the other one? The Great Gatsby. Even that's fucking good.
Great. The Wolf of Wall Street's fucking phenomenal. I could watch that movie once a week.
Yeah, he's just incredibly captivating, and I think, yeah, like you're saying, there's just not many people that just can pull that off these days. He kind of just he doesn't really reinvent himself, but he just brings Leo and something slightly new to everything he does.
There's certain actors that when they play a role, or like they're in a movie, they steal every single scene they're in.
Yeah. And
Leo's one of those actors.
100%.
Like, we just rewatched all of the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Any scene that doesn't have Jack Sparrow in it, I don't give a fuck about.
Yeah.
Like, they're great movies.
Yeah.
But he, like, steals the whole series.
Yeah.
Because he's just phenomenal in it.
Yeah. And there's something hard to articulate about what actually does that. Because Tom Cruise used to be like that in all his films. He was...
I watched the new Top Gun the other day, actually.
Good? I haven't seen it yet.
I'm not a Top Gun guy, but it's cool that he does all those stunts.
Yeah.
Like, he fucking flies the jets, apparently.
That's fucking cool.
It's weird.
He's almost just doing it for, like, fuck, I want to fly planes. You guys want to film it. Let's make a movie.
It's weird. But you were saying, Tom Cruise used to do that in all of his
It's
movies.
like certain people just come along and they're like magic in a bottle. No matter what they do, no matter what character they're playing, it just fucking hits. It just works.
And I was talking about it the other day with someone. Comedy's completely dead.
Yeah.
I have not seen... Have you watched a movie recently that's made you, like, cackle?
To be honest, probably the thing that's made me laugh the most recently is fucking the Rise of Gru, the Minions thing I watched with my kids the other day. I got a few chuckles out of me.
The silly humour.
Yeah, because it's just funny. Like, stupid things like one of them farts while they're doing jiu-jitsu or something, just... But actual comedies that are trying to be comedies...
Like, I watched the one with Jonah Hill.
I was going to say...
Oh, my God. It had fucking Eddie Murphy in it. And they turned it into a racial...
Yeah.
Like, they turned it into, like, a race piece about, like, racial fucking separation. It's like, you don't do that in a comedy movie.
Hats off to you for giving it a crack.
Oh, it was horrible. Do you know they CGI'd the kiss?
What?
They had a kissing scene. The African girl and him.
Yeah.
They didn't want. She didn't want to kiss him, so the kiss is fucking CGI.
Wow.
In the movie.
That's probably that'll probably be the start of a new thing.
So you can't even kiss in movies anymore.
Wow. Yeah, I was a bit because I like.
I was like, "How's Eddie Murphy?"
What's his name? Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill.
I like him.
He used to be. He still is, but he's fucking phenomenal in a proper comedy.
Yeah.
He's in 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen?
No, I love all his other films.
21 and 22 Jump Street are like, in some scenes, piss your pants funny.
Yeah, right.
Like I can relive 4 scenes where I almost piss myself.
Wow, I would need to watch it.
Ice Cube's in him, and he's actually he benefits the movie.
Yeah,
it's funny.
It's good that he's getting a crack.
The last movie that made me like split to sides where I had to pause the TV because I was missing it was the Jackass movie, and that's cheap comedy because like that's not a real that's just cheap comedy because it's hilarious what they're doing. But yeah, I just don't. You can't make a good movie because you can't say and you can't do a lot of the things that made movies great.
The problem with it now is I think there's just way too many cooks in the kitchen. There's way too many people involved. Like,
and you want to get your movie on Netflix, and they have certain guidelines, and you want to get your movie here, and they won't let you do this. There's too many, like you said, there's too many
cooks in the kitchen. So you end up with this compromise of an idea. Same with music, there's, you look at pop stars currently now and there's like 7 or 8 writers listed on a song. Like back in the day when it was just a band, man, there was like maybe the singer and the guitarist would maybe write a song together. And now pop songs are made by fucking 8 to 10 producers.
There's another thing, I've fallen out of love with music. I never listen to music, ever. I never like sit down and just listen to music anymore. I always got a podcast playing.
Yeah, podcasts have kind of taken over. Like, I'm exactly the same. A mate of mine came around the other night, he's like, what are you listening to lately? And I'm like, podcasts, bro.
It's fucked because when you're younger and your parents are like, ew, what are you listening to? Who's that? And now, like, an 18-year-old will talk to me about something. I'm like, who the fuck's that?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just like a cycle.
Yeah, the cultural gap is starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're just like, nah, man,
Like, some of these kids would say words to me, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, someone said no cap to me, and I had no idea what it meant.
What does that mean?
I had no idea. It means, like, no lie. Like, you're not bullshitting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, so, like, and I was like, okay. And I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know what that means.
You're sitting there going, what could be the natural origin of that? Where did that come from?
And it's just, and they all talk in emojis and shit.
Yeah.
I do love the memes though. That's the best thing to come out of like the new generation, just talking in memes.
Yeah.
I have like group chats where we won't even talk to each other.
Yeah.
We just send each other memes all day.
Yeah. Yeah, memes are the saving grace of the current modern day internet.
But it is a shame what's happened to the movie industry. It's fucking legit. I just want a good comedy. But there is one coming out with who is the girl? Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
She's bringing out a movie that looks fucking piss funny.
Yeah, she's good. She was good in Silver Lining Playbook. Because she was originally in like the Hunger Games and that, right?
I just seen them like maybe 3 weeks ago.
Are they good? My wife likes them. I haven't really seen
them. They are
them.
actually fucking good movies.
They're pretty good.
I thought they were like children movies.
Yeah, I kind of thought so as well, but I think they do have more like
They've got
themes.
some fucking depth to them. Like they're really good.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah.
CGI's a bit... Oh, it's actually not really CGI driven. It's actually pretty good. It stands up easy.
But it was made in one of those awkward transitional phases from practical to CGI, right? Where they're like,
it's still really good. Like you can't say anything bad about it. I really enjoyed watching him. I thought it was going to be like Twilight-y.
What is there, like 2 or 3 of them?
3, and they're just bringing out. No, the thing there's 4.
Is it? They're going to do more?
3 or 4. They're bringing out like a prequel thing now, but it's definitely worth a watch. They are.
Yeah, no,
they're good movies.
I'll have to check it out. I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, they're fucking... I've never seen Twilight either, and my missus is like, they're that bad that they're good.
Which was definitely not their intention when they were made.
And I was like, oh, I love bad movies that are like, they're good because they're fucking really bad.
Purposely
And I
bad.
I watched the first one and I was like, oh my God, I have to watch all of them now.
Because they definitely didn't set out to be like a Sharknado. When they made that, they're like, this is just the legit
It's the worst.
wave.
It's like the acting in it is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's not their fault because that Robert Pattinson's a great actor.
Yeah.
Like he's in Batman. When I heard he was Batman, I was like, oh my God, what are they doing? But then I watched it and I was like, oh, he's a bit shit in it. But like I enjoyed it but he's a bit like emo in it.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But in Twilight, it's like the producer was like, no, you said that with too much emotion.
Yeah.
Like, just tone it down.
I think they were trying to be really cool and hip, right, for the
it was
time.
fucking hilarious.
Because it was probably come out when like emo music was a big thing, right? Like that was
It was so good.
it kind of hit with the emo fringes, and they were all like the emo kids.
I fucking have no issue saying I like Twilight. It was that bad that I was like, I couldn't wait. I'm actually sad that there isn't more of them to watch. And the last scene, I was like, what a pointless movie. This whole movie was pointless. Like,
Start reading some fan fiction Twilight.
It's fucking crazy. But back to the doco. What was like the hardest bit about it? Was it the editing process, the piecing it together?
Yeah, the hardest bit,
finding fucking people to talk to.
the hardest bit was when I finished filming, and I knew I'd finished filming because there was an end point in production, and it was getting into the editing studio and just being like, and locking myself down for like 6 weeks, 12-hour days. And honestly, a lot of that time was just spent staring at a whiteboard and trying to figure out a way to tell a cohesive story that flows, because I wanted to make it, because with this, because it is quite niche, but you're trying to you're kind of trying to get it to be
you don't want it to be too niche.
Yeah, you want it to be the right temperature that new people can still jump in and enjoy the film if they didn't grow up with it, or they didn't really love it when they were kids or whatever, and also that because most of the people in the niche are diehards. Like, they live and breathe this shit. They're purists about the cabs and the games and stuff like that. So I wanted it to be something that the people that live and breathe this stuff will still get enjoyment out of, and will be informative and engaging. And also on the other end of the spectrum, that people that don't really care about pinballs will still kind of fall in love with the cast and the people, and just how nice these old things look on shot in some nice low mood lighting on a cinema camera.
Dude, when you were were showing the mechanics of the pinball machines and that, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they've come a long way, and they were fucking clever with the way they made that shit back then.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, when you first see a pinball, what do you call it? The
motherboard or whatever the actual term is, I don't know.
I can't remember what the term's called. The playfield. When you first see them flick open a playfield, you're just like, oh, bro.
It's fucking like a NASA spaceship.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It would probably have significantly more technology than those first fuckers that went to the moon, you know what I mean? Like,
those ones from the more modern ones from that group, Haggis, they're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
What they're doing is absolutely nuts, man. Like, they are... I mean, the way he's set up, Damien there, is a clever bloke. Like, there's only about 20, 25 people that work there, and it's just a little small production line, and they make like 5 or 6 pennies a week. And they're up against like Stern, who are making like 50 a day, I think. Like, and that's some of the backlash I think they've had, which I think really sucks, is that people order them and they want them sooner, but it just takes a long time for them to get them
fucking
out.
handmade.
They get, but the thing is, when people get them, they're considered possibly the top quality pinball in the world, which is something that Australia can be very proud of.
Where are they based?
In Melbourne.
Oh, yeah.
Just outside the city in Melbourne. Was it? So I went out there. It's about an hour's drive from the airport. And I flew in there in the morning, raced out, filmed with him all day, and got on a plane that night, just because he was busy and I was busy. But I was like, I really want to put in there that, there is a future for this stuff, and people are still carrying the torch. But yeah, getting back to the question about what the hardest thing by far was the editing, because the fun part was kind of over, and there was a lot of times where I was like, I don't have a film here, like there's nothing here, and I would go inside and say to my wife, like, fuck man, this has been a waste of time. I haven't got a film. I can't make this all fucking work and all flow. And so slowly, like I said, reintroducing the narration helped, and then just slowly over time, like I've started to... I would end up piecing bits together. So I knew that Jeff's cab would be open right at the end of the film. I knew that Frank would be at the start of the film. And I started to kind of put it in a flow of like... I started going, all right, well, this was the history, and then this is when it got popular, and this is when it died out the first time, and then now here's the early signs of it coming back. And here's how hard it actually is for these people to bring it back, and here's what they're up against, and then here's, again, what the future of this looks like. So... And it seems simple saying it now, but when you kind of just got fucking hours and hours and hours of interviews and B-roll, like I said,
it's a fucking mess. Like, it would be it would be daunting to just fucking look at.
It is, yeah. It's mind blowing. So, like I said, once the film was finished, getting it ready for distribution was a big challenge as well. That took at least a month, just getting all the specs, because they want like 8 different versions of the poster.
How do you go about like your music? Do you have to write to people to get permissions?
I did speak to an artist that is in the film a fair bit, but I ended up just licensing commercial licenses through online platform.
I've always wondered how that works with music.
See, the thing is, and having come from music back in the day, like it has been exploited a little bit, but like an artist quoted me like 10 grand to provide his whole back catalogue and write a still standing theme song. But I said to him, look, man, like I love your work, but I can license your music and a massive catalogue for like $600, and I can use it whatever for commercial purpose for release. That's there on Netflix. You can put it on any platform.
Are they just websites you go on to get licensed?
Yeah, so I used Artlist and Audio, which is spelled with 2 I's, and as long as you pay for the commercial license, because you can get a license for a couple $100, or you can pay for commercial license. So music all up cost me about $1,000.
No shit, because I've always wondered, because I wanted to get into more like 15 to 20 minute videos on my channel.
Yeah.
And music's such an important part of it.
100%.
Like, music's a massive part of a good video.
Dude, you know how before you were saying there's a few moments in Still Standing where like if you're prone to a bit
it's because of the fucking music.
I honestly, I'd be tired and I'd put a scene together and I'm like, I think that's got some feel to it. Then I'd go sifting and I'd find music. As soon as I'd put it in and EQ it, dip the EQ and get it fucking sitting in the mix and watch it back, I'd be like, fuck, I'm getting a little lump in my throat and I'm fucking the one editing it.
Yeah.
So, and half the time I was like, I don't know if I'm just fucking exhausted.
Makes a huge difference.
Completely changes the game. So that was important. To have that flexibility, and I would have loved to. I did speak to a few artists about just doing, because I thought maybe I'll do this and then I'll release a still standing soundtrack. But you need that flexibility. For the film goes for 1 hour and 15 minutes, which is not all that long. But it's you need flexibility because you got to have the dynamics, the highs and the lows. And if I commit to one artist, that could be problematic because I don't want to be like, hey man, I need a song that's like this, and that takes him 2 weeks to produce it and sends it and it's not right.
Yeah, no, it's a cool soundtrack. It is a good soundtrack.
Yeah, thank you. I think yeah, a few people have said that, which is good because, you know, when you put it in, you're
it fits.
Yeah,
it's
does.
like I watched a fucking horror movie called Malignant the other day.
Oh yeah,
have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. Yeah,
it's a horrible movie.
Not worth the watch.
It's worth it because it gets really bad. Like it's funny. Like it starts off like, oh, this is gonna be a good movie. Then it just gets like real stupid. But the music choice in it, I was like, it was really out of place. And I'm not one for like score and music and all that. But the music choice was so fucking odd. I was like laughing.
If you notice it and it's jarring, then it's
It
wrong.
was jarring. They would put on like 70s synth, like Stranger Things type vibes in scenes that just didn't make sense. And I was like, this is really throwing me off. Like it was so out of place. So music is so big.
Music should be like a gentle breeze, not like a fucking gust of wind. Like it should just be like, oh, that's nice, that's pleasant, that matches the thing that you're watching. Because it's an incredibly powerful tool, like especially for like narrative docos and stuff like that. Well, with any film, like even when we did Free, the short film, music moves the story because not a whole lot happens in that story wise, and it's just kind of
keeps you engaged.
Yeah, it lets you know because there's no dialogue in Free, which is the short film that we made. It's
where's that available?
Just on YouTube or
on your page.
Yeah. So
which is BGVC?
bgvc.com.au. You can watch it on there. But, you know, music was super important on that as well because there's no dialogue and there's only one actor in the film. And so she's holding the whole thing on her shoulders. And so she did an incredible job. And when you add the music to it, it gives you, it's like having another voice. It's like deciding to add the narration. You know, you've got the film, you've got what you filmed, you've got the style that you filmed it, and then you've got narration being a tool, and then music is the other thing that just really makes sure that the viewer knows that what you're thinking or what should be happening, it kind of nudges you back into. It's a way of controlling what the audience should be feeling.
Yeah, you fucking nailed it. Like if anyone doesn't understand how important music is to film, go watch. Have you ever seen Interstellar?
Yes.
Oh, that fucking movie.
That soundtrack, yeah.
That movie is worth going out and buying a fucking home theater system to experience. When I first seen it, my missus is like, we have to listen to it because I got an 85-inch TV.
Yep.
Inside, and I got like a full Samsung sounds, and she's like, we have to watch it and we have to like blast it.
Dude, Hans Zimmer I think he goes
God.
out with a fucking orchestra and like performs his soundtrack.
Dude, it gives me goosebumps thinking about that. The movie's phenomenal.
Yep.
But the sound in that movie is like, whoa.
And you hear so much film composers influenced by Hans Zimmer, like
it's crazy.
Over the in movies that have followed, some of that, like, you know, it's not complicated. I mean, it is in a simplistic sort of way. Like, it's clever.
It just aids the movie so fucking well.
Yeah,
it's
those
phenomenal.
single key piano notes that you or I could play on a fucking piano. Little dun, dun.
It's so good.
It's clever. Yeah. No. Yeah. So, Once the distribution was taken care of, that was the hard part over, and then it was just kind of like this massive weight off my shoulder.
Have you received the feedback you think were you expecting, or?
I honestly didn't know what to expect. Are
you happy with the outcome?
100%. So the Still Standing's won 5 international film festivals, and and so far, I mean, it hasn't gone out. I don't think it's not like out in a well-known film, but so far it's received only positive feedback. Which obviously comes with having a small, you know, at the moment it's still just circling the niche audience.
Which is cool because no one, when people think of Australia, they don't think of South Australia.
Yeah.
So it's cool to get like a stage where South Australia can kind of go to.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome. And if you're from South Australia, it's a must watch because it's just so fucking nostalgic.
Yeah, just think, so, you know, with Magic Mountain, like, I got in touch with, that little museum, the old museum sort of thing, down at Glenelg at the bay, like it's sort of like,
yeah,
just near the square there. I just walked in there one day. I was with my kids. We were down at the bay on school holidays, and I was like, I wonder if they got any like Magic Mountain stuff here. And I went in there, and I was like, halfway through production of Still Standing, and I just got chatting to the 2 curators there, and they were like, man, yeah, we've got like a whole archive of we've got like the old Sky Cycles just sitting in a shed in Brighton. So the Sky Cycle that you see in Still Standing and the old clowns and that, they're just sitting there from when Magic Mountain was torn apart.
Just ask if you could have one.
They've only got one, but they're just sitting in there.
Did you get any? Do you have like a collection of any arcade machines or anything?
Yeah, I've got. When I was throughout the filming of Still Standing, I had Danny's MK2 at my office just because it was just kind of like a little inspo thing. It just sat there. I never really played it, but just sat there. I've got a couple of like the knockoff arcade 1-up cabs. I've got an NBA Jam and a Mortal Kombat 2.
NBA Jam, one of the greatest games of all
time.
So
good. That was like a must-have. So, and what I would do, I would just when I was editing, I've got one that Ben from the film. Do you know Ben? He's like a local. Ben from he has 1-up gaming and arcade, which gets confusing because
was he the one with the Simpsons machine?
He's the one that does the Street Fighter 2 cab.
Oh, okay, yeah, he was restoring it.
Yeah, so
no, I don't know him. Is he a Southern boy?
Yeah, that was filmed in Lonsdale, and he.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I've got one of his cabs that he made, and what I would do is, which is made beautifully. It's a MAME machine, so it's just got like 4,000 games.
Yeah.
In it. But I would every morning, and I would do this all the time throughout making Still Standing. I'll go in there, turn on the NBA Jam, turn on the Mortal Kombat, turn on the Ben's cab, just let them go into attract mode, and I'll just have the sounds of them, and it would kind of just
inspire a little bit.
Yeah, but I've got a collection of like a lot of old Sega Mega Drive games and a lot of old consoles, like all the old consoles, and I've got kind of like a big display wall.
Man, if you only knew, there was a Super Mario game that sold for like fucking $4 million like last year.
I know.
If you only knew.
I know. My most prized possession, I think, is I've got an originally boxed 1984 like Atari GS or something, and it's got like the old
untouched.
It's in the box in the old original. Like I've opened it, but the cords are they've been coiled for so long, like they don't actually straighten. Like it's fucking like still in its old polystyrene. Yeah, it stinks because it was in a shipping container.
That'd be worth just money.
Oh yeah, I offered the dude down on Beach Road, you know, that old pawnbroker right down the bottom near the car shop. Yeah, I offered him like $100, and he's like, yeah, all right. And on eBay, man, without the box, they go for like $1,000. And I've got this thing in a box.
Game things are just...
And then I'll just keep going up.
Yeah, it's fucking. Whoa, just like especially Mario memorabilia and things like that.
Yeah.
Even not just niche things, just weird games that you wouldn't even know existed that made like 50 fucking games.
Yeah, like the most expensive old NES game is like, what is it, like Track and Field or something?
There was a
Something fun.
there was an is it an Atari game or there was an ET game, and they all went into landfill. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that was
documentary?
one of that. Do you know what? That was the film that made me decide, fuck it, I'm doing narration, because the director of that narrates the film.
What was the name of that?
Fuck, what is that called? It's what is that called?
I have to look at that on my phone. Sorry,
It's
that's gonna piss me off. That's a fucking phenomenal
is it
film.
Is it just called Game Over?
I think it is.
And then
Game
it's got like a tagline that explains like there's something of Atari.
I'm fairly sure it's called Game Over, and it's about Atari Game Over 2014. Yeah, that's it. And it was so basically E.T. the game killed the fucking whole of Atari, and they put all of the games into landfill. So if you had one of those, like not opened, you'd be sitting on fucking squillions.
And that's what's funny. It was so bad. It's unplayable. It's like a shit game. But this little cartridge that you're never going to put into an Atari is worth a mint.
It's just hindsight.
Have you seen a film called Insert Coin?
What one's that?
So
Is that a film or a documentary?
it's a doco, and I got to know the.
Actually, that fucking sounds really familiar.
So the director Josh Sway, he lives in Chicago. Him and I have become friends via Twitter, and we've Skyped a couple of times. And he actually got me through a lot of getting Still Standing done, because he worked at Midway back in the early '90s. So he worked on Mortal Kombat 2.
No shit.
Yeah, he like knows Tony Hawk. He like
No
worked on the Tony
shit.
Hawk games. He's the nicest dude. Like, we just become friends on Twitter somehow. I think he put a thing up saying, "What cameras? Hey Doco, filmmakers, like what cameras are you using?" And I just threw up there like, "Oh, I'm using an EVA 1 and a couple of S1Hs." And he's like, "Oh, thanks heaps." And we just got chatting, and I was just like, "Hey man," I inboxed him and I was like, "Hey, can I just ask you a couple of questions about your film?" But he's just gone like, he's as big, like IGN shared his trailer. And
I was going to say, Insert Coin, that sounds... Because I went down a massive rabbit hole after King of Kong, because it was a perfect, like, smoke a joint and just sit back and just enjoy movie. It was one of those.
It's all behind the scenes of making NBA Jam and Mortal Kombat. It's on Stan, it's on Amazon, it's on Doc Play, it's on
Being
everything.
in Midway would be so cool. They would have, back in the day, they fucking produced some bangers.
He's friends with like John Tobias and Ed Boon and that, like the
No
creators
shit.
of Mortal Kombat.
Another thing, like same as the movie industry, the game industry's gone completely to fucking shit.
Yeah.
It's horrible. I don't know if you still like if you play like PlayStation or Xbox anymore.
I played Rocket League with my son.
Yeah, that's the go. But it's just like there's no games get released half baked because they have unrealistic deadlines.
And they can just patch them. They're like, fuck it, that'll do.
So Call of Duty will release an unfinished game every year, and then they put in a battle pass because they don't give you the full game anymore. You got to pay an extra fucking $30 to get, and then you got to grind the game to get the stuff that should be in the game already.
It took all the worst traits of mobile gaming.
It's just gambling.
Brought it to console.
At least they don't do because. So I remember in Black Ops 3 because I got banned from the CBD briefly when I was 18 or 19. I got arrested and I got banned from the CBD, and I wasn't allowed to go to the city, but I was allowed to go to work. I had a pass to go to work. And so I was really just playing like Call of Duty Black Ops 2 or 3 for like 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And they had a loot box system where you have your currency, whatever currency it was, your COD coins, and you'd buy loot boxes and it would be a box and it would open and it's like pokies, like 3 things would appear. And you could spend fucking thousands of dollars on them and not get a gun. Like, you could just get skins. And but they had to get rid of them because it was, like, considered gambling.
They got in before the regulations came in.
But the gaming industry is horrible.
I always say to my son, man, Nate, you don't know how tough we used to do it. Like, when we first started playing, like, World at War, Call of Duty Online, it'd be, like, most of the time the modem would just drop out or just freeze up. Or because we're in Australia, we're just dealing with lag all the time. You've got, like, one bar and everyone's running around killing you before you even see them.
Modern Warfare lobbies were fucking just... I'll see every now and then I'll jump on my PS5. I got Black Ops 3 and got some of the older games, and they're still really active online.
Are they?
Yeah, But you go into like a new Call of Duty game and the lobbies are like pretty tame. There's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But then you jump on one of these lobbies and these people have not stopped playing since it came out.
They just stayed with one they love.
I got on there and I heard 6 racial slurs. Like 12 people fucked each other's mothers, all within like 10 seconds of being in one lobby, and I was like, oh, it feels so good to be home.
Yeah, no one's monitoring this old shit. Who cares?
It's so good to be home. Like it's just a different world and it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy. Like there is some good game. Have you played The Last of Us?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
And
only the first one.
Have you watched the series?
I'm halfway through it. Yeah,
Fucking phenomenal.
it's made well. Yeah,
made so.
and
well.
again, they're because like you've got the premise and stuff like that. But
Pedro Pascal is an example of an actor that steals fucking scenes.
Yeah,
so good.
And he's in a lot of stuff, and he's like the same. He's like different in everything, but he still brings that same charm. But yeah, at first I was like, not sure about this cast, but it hits pretty quickly, and you're like, this works.
Bella Ramsey does such a fucking phenomenal job. When they casted her, I was a bit like, oh, that's shit.
Yeah, I think that's the one that got me a bit, and I was like, okay.
But she's the star of the whole fucking show.
Yeah,
She's good. She's great.
they were both. I seen both of those at first in Game of Thrones, the first Game of Thrones series.
Another series that every like 6 months I'm like, fuck, I should rewatch Game of Thrones. Then I remember how bad the last season was.
Yeah, the thing is though, it goes for so long, because that was like because when I finished Still Standing, I put on like fucking 15 kilos from what I am now. I just got fat. I was just fucking drinking lemonade and eating shit, and I got up to 90 kilos. I should be like low 70s.
I was gonna say you're pretty trim. You're pretty like thin.
Yeah, I was like fucking 90 at the end of Still Standing, and I'm only like 5'8", 5'9". I got no business being 90. But so I bought a treadmill. I got rid of the Mortal Kombat 2. Literally bought a treadmill. And Game of Thrones season 1 was my treadmill show, and I lost like 15 kilos just getting through like 4 seasons of Game of Thrones.
Have you finished it?
Well, that was my third watch through. But what I'm saying is that it goes for so long. You go back to the start. And
Sopranos is my zone out show. I'll rewatch that almost every 2 years.
Yeah.
Or Breaking Bad.
I was going to say Breaking Bad is one that I'll just watch
rewatch.
every 18 months or so.
Better Call Saul took me so long to watch it, but phenomenal.
Possibly, this is controversial.
Almost better.
I was going to say that, but then I would say even more controversial. Have you seen Your Honor?
The first season, honestly, was one of the best shows I've ever seen.
If you haven't seen the second season?
I have.
Oh,
I haven't finished it. There's like 2 episodes I haven't seen.
The second season to me...
Actually, no, I did finish it. But are they doing a third?
No, that's the end of it. Yeah, I know, it's done.
When he's walking into the
prison.
Prison?
Yeah.
You don't walk into a prison, so what's going on? Like, is he... Oh my God, that does my head in. I thought there was going to be a third season.
No, there's not.
That's such a good show.
I honestly thought... About 2/3 of the way through season 2 of Your Honor, I'm like, this is the greatest fucking show of all time. I couldn't believe the twist that they were throwing into that thing.
It was good, and it was filmed very well. And
yeah, the cinematography is perfect, and the layers that they just kept going with.
The first season, the first like scene with where he's driving and having an asthma attack, I was like, this is so hectic.
Yeah.
Like, it just starts off so hectic.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be... And he plays such a similar character to Walter White, but he's not repurposing the character, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he's his own character.
Yeah.
But he shares so many similarities to Walter White.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're getting a reboot.
Yeah.
Or like a different universe. Walter White's in a different universe.
Yeah. It
awesome.
runs very parallel character-wise, doesn't it? I found it funny because I watched Better Call Saul, and then my wife and I finished that and loved it, and we're like, let's go back and do Breaking Bad again.
I honestly think it would benefit anyone who hasn't seen Breaking Bad. I think it would be way better to watch Better Call Saul first.
Yeah, but what I found a bit jarring was Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad is quite different to what he's actually like.
He's a dickhead.
He's like, he's got that girlfriend Kim, right? In Better Call Saul, and he's nothing but a gentleman. Never even slaps her on the bum or says anything cheeky to her. In Breaking Bad, he's like fucking throwing
he's
little
deviant.
Yeah, he's like a deviant to the receptionist.
Yeah, I loved Better Call Saul, how they like fast forwarded to the future and the past and stuff.
Yeah,
like that. It was really good.
It fucking throws you a bit at the end though, hey, because it starts going pre and then post, and then you're like, fuck, I need to keep this.
It does get a bit confusing.
Yeah,
but it's phenomenal. Have you ever seen Chef's Table on Netflix?
No.
That honestly is probably the most well-filmed documentary series I've ever seen.
Yeah, right.
That Chef's Table is just every episode's based on a different chef from around the world. That's like very good, like the best chefs in the world, and it follows their lives and how they got there and the intensity of their service. And these places are like the most elite places in the world.
Yeah.
Or it could be in fucking Patagonia in the snow on a little island, and it's just this old bloke who cooks on charcoal. Like, it's phenomenal. But the actual filming of it is fucking insanely good.
Good cameras are getting so accessible these days, so smaller crews, and they're getting smaller form.
It's just like the B-roll of it and like just how they film it.
Yeah.
And they'll have like scenes where the chef's standing still and grinding, and you see the whole service fast forwarded behind it. Like, it's just very good camera work and editing.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. That's worth a watch if you like cinematography or film.
Well, that's the good thing about a lot of documentaries these days. The cinematography will do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Bro, and there's 16, it's only going to get better because there's 16, 17-year-olds out there grinding on Fiverr, making clips for podcasts and shit for fucking $20 a clip.
Yeah.
And they're just gaining fucking skills at such a young age now.
Yeah.
And making money.
It's hard to, like, I honestly, after Still Standing, I hung up the boots for doing video production and to client facing. Because it's just.
Do you have something you obviously can't say, but do you have anything in the works or in your head that you want to kind of achieve?
Absolutely. As far as original content, so BGVC, which is my production company, that was mainly to do with like providing client services over the years, which funded Still Standing. But once I finished Still Standing, I decided to shut down the client-facing side and only focus on original IP. So Tristan and I have got a short film in the works. We do have another documentary that we're going to look at going into pre-production later in the year. And I'm working on in 2017, one of my old business partners, when I first got into video, we wrote like a little, I think it was like a 6-part animated series called The Yard. And it's kind of like an Australian version of South Park. We did like we did like an 8-part. It actually got all the way up to Comedy Central office in New York, and it nearly got picked up. It's set in a used car yard, and it's just about this super dysfunctional group of people. Like
that would be perfect. Like, fuck, that sounds so up my alley.
I'll send you the original. I'll send you the original sort of like concept short eps. But we've just Lee Norman and I have just been in the process of writing a pilot script, because like a full length to try to get it into production for a series. So that's going to be my next focus. But it's basically so it's set in a car yard, just about a dysfunctional group of people, and it got pitched to Comedy Central New York, and they got in touch and they were like, we love this, but we just had there's a comedian by the name of Michelle Wolf who just did.
Yeah.
Do you know her? Yeah, she had just done a sitcom that was set in a used car yard. So very different to what we're doing. They're like, we love the Australian angle,
but too close.
But they're like, we just had this fail, and it's literally like about a fucking dysfunctional team of people in a used car yard. And
that sounds so good, but you could just release it on fucking YouTube.
Yeah, so we did originally do that. It's probably a bit on the nose now because the world's changed a lot. So we've got to fucking probably rejig it a little bit.
That's the thing with those kind of things, especially with animated sitcoms. You probably need to get the format really down so you can operate really quickly, so you can hit like just current events. Like South Park's so good at that.
That's right, yeah. We spent, the good thing about The Yard is because before we did the animated series, we actually tried to film a pilot of a like live film sort of setup with people playing the characters. So we got to know these characters so well. So now when we're scripting for the main 5 characters, you know exactly how they would talk to each other.
It kind of writes itself almost.
Yeah, like it feels like it flows really easy. And I think that's because we spent so much time developing those characters for the actual...
You obviously will outsource for the animation.
Yeah, so I did the drawings. I did the characters character design for the original, and we're going to keep the character design, but yeah, animations.
I'd love to see them.
Yeah, I'm going to send you a link. I was actually going to. I wrote it down to mention to you. I'd be interested to see your thoughts on the
Yeah,
art.
because South Park's like my top three of all. I watch every episode. I've seen every episode up till now, up till like 2 weeks ago.
You'll definitely see the I guess the inspiration from South Park.
If you're going to make a show like that, you have to draw it. It's mandatory to draw inspiration from South Park because they're just the goats.
Their character sort of
Rick and
proportions and that.
Rick and Morty were really knocking at the door of that, but then all that stuff happened with the creator of it,
Justin Roiland. I think he went a little bit. He's like recording the episodes drunk and getting a little bit.
No, he got done like being inappropriate.
Oh, did he? I was about to say, did he get fucking?
He got done.
Got a bit.
He
cancelled?
got done. He got cancelled hard. So Comedy Central or whatever it is kicked him out. He's not doing the show anymore.
Yeah, he's off of that. I did know that.
But he's the voice. He's the voices.
Yeah, that makes it hard.
But they have AI now.
What, and they can emulate it?
Well, if they can fucking do some cool shit with AI. They'd be able to emulate it very easily.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right.
You can't emulate humour.
And the delivery, and that's the thing, like with the yard, like once you get to know these characters, and like
Are you voice acting one?
Yeah, so I voice 2 of the characters, and he voices 2 or 3 of the characters, and then there's a couple of other people that voice them. So we'll stay doing that. I'll stay on as a writer and director and do a couple of the voices.
That's cool.
But that's my next project. So like like I said, we've got a short film coming up sort of soon, which is a big change. It's like a sci-fi sort of thing.
That's cool.
Nothing like Still Standing. But I think definitely down the track I'll dip back into the well of like the pinball and arcade industry. I get emails quite often.
Travel to America.
Yeah, Galloping Ghost and stuff like that would be awesome to hit the real meccas, you know what I mean? But the thing is, like, and what I loved about doing Still Standing is that, and that's why in all of my all of the copy and the synopsises of the film, it's important that people understand that this is unique to Australia. Like, this is just how we do it here, because our position in the world put us at a bit of a disadvantage when the games were coming from the US. So the way we did it here was different. And when it all crashed and went out and went under, in the US, they would just kind of move into different places, and there's a lot more people and population to absorb them. That's why so many of ours just end up in landfill, because no one wanted them, and it's not like people just had ample space to put these.
They're worth so much. My uncle used to have, I don't know what happened to it actually. Maybe I'll make a documentary about it. He used to have a old slot machine at his house. It was filled with 5-cent coins, and whenever we'd go over, I didn't know what I was doing, but it had a full crank, and it was like a Vegas, like one of the original slot machines.
Yeah, I remember one of my mates' dads had one when we were kids, and I fucking remember just sitting there playing it, because you want to go home, you're getting tired, but they're all just on the beers, and we just found this late in the night, and I'm like, fuck.
And eventually, like, you hit something, and like all these 5-cent coins would come out, and you put them back in. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it was like, fuck it. I was like, how much would that be worth now? Because it was so well maintained and shit.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
I don't know that you're allowed to own them.
No, I imagine they're very illegal. He doesn't own it anymore. It's gone. But yeah, I imagine it's highly illegal.
Yeah.
I guess it could fall under memorabilia.
Yeah, I guess if you're preserving stuff like that. But you don't really see them around a lot.
That's the thing. I haven't seen one in fucking years.
I tell you what, like when I first started Still Standing, it was like, all right, this is just going to be about arcades. And pretty quickly people were like, you can't really make a film about arcades without talking about pinball. But you know what? The natural progression from pinball, like with all these peoples, is fucking jukeboxes.
Jukeboxes.
A lot of these pinball collectors.
I haven't seen a fucking proper jukebox in years.
Frank Sebastian from Magic Mountain, his pride and joy. He doesn't have a single penny. He doesn't have a single old arcade. He's just got this pride and joy jukebox that is fucking incredible. It's so sick. I actually filmed it, but I didn't put it in the
What's
film.
crazy is I wouldn't even be able to tell you what they look like. That's how long it's been. Yeah. I know, I got it in my head, but they had a very distinct
It's like
look
they kind of
had
like
a
this
bubble.
Yeah, and a lot of them had like old school like rear bumper style of like old cars with the wings and shit like that.
No shit.
They would kind of look like the back of a car.
Yeah, no shit.
So that and so that surprised me because it almost got to the point where I was like, well, I can't talk about arcades without talking about pinballs. And then so many people were like, you can't really talk about pennies without talking about jukeboxes. And I was like, no, I can't. We can't be starting to branch out into jukeboxes, but it's a very close sort of sibling to people that love.
It's just crazy how quick you forget. Like in 15 years, there will be a documentary on what used to be radio.
Yeah.
Like who the fuck listens to radio?
Yeah.
Like anymore. Like it's crazy.
It'll be retro. Yeah.
It's crazy how much the only people that listen to radio 100% are over 35 to 40.
Yeah.
They would have to be.
Just on their way to work.
And they don't have an aux cord.
Yeah. Yeah. If you've forgotten your aux cord or you fucking lost your earbuds to listen to a podcast.
Dying industry. Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They still demand fucking pretty penny to put ads on there, eh? Like
Who
they
the
got
fuck
big
listens
reach.
to a ad on a fuck? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of cool shit out in the world. But so we're gonna try to fire up the yard. That's kind of the next big sort of project that I'll do. We'll talk. Yeah, I guess we're probably not ready to talk about the next documentary, but we'll it is in pre-production in a very, very primitive state. But yeah, so so I shut down the client side of my business and took a job. So I work now and so I keep my any film work and stuff like that is purely just for
passion.
Original. I'm back to kind of where I very first wanted to
That's
be.
good though. It takes off the pressure because you don't have to pay your fucking mortgage off with.
That's
that.
right. And to be honest, like I feel like because I hadn't had a job for so long. I'd been running my own business for 6 or 7 years. I freelanced while I had a job, and then I went fully in and did it for like 6 or 7 years. Like I said, I didn't go to uni or do anything like that, but I was able to actually get a pretty decent gig, like just from having done a documentary and had done the film. And it was a big part of like my CV to be like, I'm a director of an award-winning film, and I self-distributed it, and it actually opened opened a door that otherwise I wouldn't have had if I hadn't done that anyway. So it feels actually really good now to be like, now my all the equipment that I bought to make Still Standing, I now no longer use for work. It's just for creative projects.
Yeah.
And it's such a great mindset to be in, because now it's just back to creating.
Yeah, and that's at the end of the day, that's why you do it.
Exactly.
For love.
Yeah, that's right.
But so that was I enjoyed that. I knew I was going to enjoy it, but I enjoyed that a lot. You're a fucking awesome dude to talk to.
Thank you so much.
So if you haven't already, anyone who watches this podcast, especially if you're from South Australia, I really, really think you should head over to his YouTube channel, BGVC.
BGVC, yeah.
Give it a subscribe, suss out all the content, but definitely check out Still Standing. It's it's the best doco to come out of South Australia.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you for coming on.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Legend.
Cheers.